Another lovely Monday after a lot of rain, but we did need it, so we can't complain. This is the Directors' Roundtable, which precedes the council work session and then council meeting. We have sort of a full agenda today with lots of reports, so I guess we will start with Jessica Walker, and then there's Jessica Walter.
I can be anything you need me to be.
Oh, okay. Jessica Walker will do well.
So in the absence of Richard Johnson, I bring news that the RFPs and RFQs are out now for the Working Waterfront and Green Space Restore project. That period closes at 10 a.m. on July the 9th, and the selection committee will get to work. We hope to have recommendations to the council by the second meeting in July, but more likely it's going to be the first meeting in August because that's a pretty short time frame. So, but the good news is we're working and we've got that going. So that's exciting for us. And then just an update on the Transportation Hub and Alleyway project. You've probably heard some things in community engagement throughout the community and through social media. At the next council work session, we hope to be able to present those plans. So June 24th.
Okay, super. Richard.
Hey.
Hey.
How's everybody today? Have a good weekend? It's always difficult for me to try to bring everything to the table at these meetings, but we are working on trying to finalize plans for the wastewater transmission systems, and there's two of them. And the one that we're doing most of our preliminary work on in terms of what do we need to bring in addition to the wastewater infrastructure improvements, what else do we need to bring to this project? So the project that will be from on Church Street and run from Fells to the wastewater plant, we're looking at adding the stormwater needs that we have, and that will focus mostly at Oak and Church, and that's where the outfall is, just on the west side of Church, you know, down Oak just a little bit. So we're going to go to the outfall, and we're going to start that drainage project, and it will come all the way up to where the alley between Magnolia and Fairhope Avenue come out on what would be the south side of the parking garage. And so that drainage system from that location on Church between Fairhope and Magnolia will be improved all the way back to the outfall into the gully there on the what would be the west side of the wastewater plant. And that's a pretty significant chore to bring all that drainage up, and because most of the drainage is going to be under the sidewalk on what is the west side, we'll also replace all of the sidewalk with ADA compliant work, and I think what we're talking about now, and I don't want to steal any of Richard's thunder because he's been involved in the drainage part of it obviously, but we're looking to maybe narrow the street just a little bit and have some landscape opportunities for street trees and other things that would be on the west side of Church. So the drainage system is pretty significant. Of course, the wastewater transmission line is the primary reason for having the project to start with, and then we're looking to run a 16-inch force main, and it'll connect to the force main that comes from the south section lift station right across from Public Works, and we'll eventually wind up doing our secondary transmission project to that, which will be to upgrade the transmission system all the way back to the lift station at the Public Works building. And we're looking at part of that project potentially being one of the side stream storage units that we'll have, and phase the lift station we have now out of transmission requirements for everything that's being developed south of town. So we'll try to transfer most of what we have coming from the south side of town into the side stream storage system, and that'll give us a little bit of time on trying to get the rest of the transmission component done, but it'll still be a job that we'll have to do after we get this one transmission line complete. The other thing we're looking at doing on that particular right-of-way with Church Street is we're asking the water model that we've just recently commissioned with and the name changed. Jacob Engineering is the engineering company that we used. It had been CH2M Hill, but and I get those confused every time we do that. But so we're asking them to model fire flow with the existing system, and we're looking to perhaps lay a new 8-inch line water main from Fells to Oak. And we may, with the model, we may play with what we may get out of a 10-inch water line, or what other connections can we make to have a pretty hardy fire protection system there, especially with the K1 Center being at a point where there may be a pretty decent facility that will probably need better fire protection than what we have there now. So we'll come up with those numbers, and we'll make that recommendation to the project in terms of providing something for the water system. The other part of the project we're looking at doing is we've got a lot of cast iron gas main that is within the old downtown area, and a lot of it migrates into the Fruit and Nut, and some of it back behind Bayou Drive and Fairwood. And so we're looking to take and add a new regulator station to create a low pressure distribution system, but go ahead while we're in church and lay the backbone of what will eventually be our new gas system that will replace the cast iron system. And so we'll probably have a fairly significant regulator station somewhere close to the plant on Church Street, and then we'll lay a 4 and maybe a 6-inch plastic gas line. It'll be low pressure, but it'll be sufficient to feed all the capacity needs we have on what is the old cast iron gas system that's in, down the old part of town. So we're excited to have the opportunity to begin what can be some pretty significant improvements. One being water system with more fire protection capability, and of course the drainage is a pretty big improvement in itself. And then get the backbone of what will be our cast iron replacement strategy down the road. So we're looking forward to that. That's the one transmission line.
Okay, Richard, when would our citizens anticipate seeing something happening on Church Street?
Well, we've got the plans, and we're validating all of what they're showing as existing infrastructure. And we've got a little bit of work to do with some of that. And we're looking to get these modeling aspects of these other upgrades in within the next week or so, and hopefully we'll be able to put all that on a set of plans and get bids. We were looking for at mid-August.
Okay.
It may be a little later than that. For some reason, as much as you want everything to happen quickly, it's very difficult for all the stars to align just right and everybody get the time it takes to get things to the design consultant in this case, and then for them to put that on paper and have it ready for bid. So it's coming sooner than later, but it'll probably be late August when we actually get bids out. And then on the Bayou Drive Fairhope Avenue transmission system, which kind of comes in on the Section Street side of the wastewater plant. Right now, we've got two 15-inch lines that are pile supported that come from Section about across from Bayou Drive, and they're exposed and above grade all the way across the gully that drains on the east side of the plant that drains the I can't tell you the name of the gully, but it's the gully that you see on Section Street to the right going toward the Dick Center as you go on Bayou Drive. Well, that drainage system, the two transmission lines, they're on concrete piling, and they're cracked up and they're beat up a little bit. And so we're looking to incorporate a new transmission line into the plant that would be on Section Street for a short, maybe a couple of 100 feet, and it'll turn around the south side of the plant and come in on the back side, and then it will connect with the Church Street system that we're talking about coming in on Church Street, and create a new influent box. Hopefully we can get some better influent flow meter capability out of that too, but that's where these two projects are going. The Bayou Drive, Fairwood, Fairhope Avenue transmission system, there are a few places where we may do some stormwater work. It's nowhere near the level of significance that we'll be looking at on Church Street.
Okay.
But we are looking to improve any gas system we need to in that area. We think the water system's in pretty decent shape right now, but we're going to be looking to do that with that project too. So, and that bid may be a little earlier because I don't think we have quite as much extra work to put into that as we do the Church Street transmission line. We're having, you know, we share a tree trimming contract with Public Works. It's predominantly an electric tree trimming contract, and it's designed to allow the distribution, the electric distribution system to be cleared of limbs and other growth vines and things that aren't conducive to reliable power. So when trees start to grow in the spring, you know, and the wind blows a little bit, well, when those limbs touch the power line, they are, you know, touching something that's to ground, and so what winds up happening is the power, the voltage in the line will actually cause the leaves and the limbs to burn. So we after the spring season, we saw that there was a need to really focus more heavily on that tree trimming contract to work on the electric system. Now there are some other areas that come, you know, every once in a while somebody's got a dead limb or a dead tree that they need to have removed that's on the right of way, and we try to do that, and we try to share the tree trimming service on an as needed basis. But we've gotten to the point now where we think it's going to be more prudent for us, you know, when you start looking at the condition of some of the, you know, the age and the substation equipment that we have. We don't want to put any stresses on anything we don't have to. So we're going to focus that tree trimming group to be mostly doing electric work.
Okay.
And because of that, you know, the internal communications were maybe a little bit slow, and we may have had some expectation of getting trees moved that need to get moved right away, and I apologize for that. But, you know, we still are going to move trees out of the right of way when they have, you know, an issue with disease or it's time for them to go. But right now, the electric part of what we do for tree trimming needs to take priority, and we will back up and continue to get other things done. It's just maybe not as quick as most people would like.
So hang tight.
But that's what we're doing.
Hang tight, folks, when you call and ask to have a tree
and
taken
one
care
last
of.
little bonus thing, in case you're wondering where the marina is and the electric, we had a problem where the shipment of the shore power boxes was delayed significantly, and so we got those in, and that's going to free the contractor up to start moving at a quicker pace to get that electric done.
Great.
But there's one other caveat to all that. FEMA has introduced the 8-point review step process, which has a little bit to do with mostly wetlands and flooded areas. Well, this is, you know, below the FEMA flood zone, so we're having to do a little bit extra in terms of dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that what we're doing does provide a public good.
So that people aren't confused. This is the municipal pier.
The municipal pier, yes.
And the marina
yes,
down
it's
there.
The municipal pier, and it's but we're feeling good about the project, and hopefully if everything will come together, you'll see a lot of work being done out there in the short term. So.
Super.
And you know, here again, you know, you think it's pretty easy to replace, you know, an electric system. Well, when you have new code issues that arise, and when you have upgrade requirements, and you have a lot of time you're spending on other things anyway. I mean, it is a, you know, an unfortunate circumstance that it's taken this long, but we're trying to overcome that now, and we think we're moving in the right direction.
Great. Super. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our treasurer, Kim Creech, what have you got today?
I'm just giving an update on so far that I've been working here 3 weeks on the ground working, and I'm as I'm looking through processes, I'm finding streamlining areas that need to be looked at. And one example is that for years and years and years, when they fund payroll, they wrote a check from one bank account to the other bank account. And so last week I analyzed that process, and we transferred the money online and then did a journal entry, so that that it alleviates some extra processes that we've been doing. And also on funding our AP run, same thing, a check would be wrote to get it over, and some manual, we would actually do it, the funding online, but then after a few weeks later, we're actually doing a manual check to show that process. So eliminated that process where one journal entry, so as we transfer money, I'll write up the journal entry, hand it to the city accountant, and it's done, versus us waiting a few weeks later to do a month-end process.
Okay.
So, and I've met with 2 of our larger banks that our monies are in, and just analyzing our accounts. And I've met with insurance companies, so I've just been analyzing, our processes.
Great. Super. Any way we can speed things up and make it easier is great. Super. Thank you. Tom?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Jill?
Yes, we have finally begun our 2020 budget season. Last week I did a training with this new update in Munis. We have a much better way of entering the budget, more user-friendly. So I think hopefully all our supervisors understand that, since it's so easy. And I am asking that they be preliminary finished by June 21st. So that'll give the mayor time to start meeting with all of them and going through each and every department's wish list. And that's all I have.
Okay. The budget doesn't happen in a month, does it?
Does not.
Okay. Before I hand the table over to Buford, I do have a report on the Fairhope docks. As you all know, it has needed a great deal of work, and we've been looking and talking and working on it. And I'm pleased to announce that phase 1 of the marina renovation is going to begin this month, with bids going out for replacement and or repair the bulkheads from A dock to G dock. And that's pretty much, that is all of the docks that we have. A dock being at the covered slips, and G dock being the one that runs along the jetty. So we'll be getting bids out there. Simultaneously, the electrical service will be upgraded down there, and our power pedestals that we purchased earlier will be put in place, and everybody has seen the one on display in the marina office, and those who have slips down there can't wait for all of that to happen. The finger piers at Dock A, the covered slips again, will be replaced with 4-foot wide full-length piers, and that's one of the major improvements down there that we're doing. The hangout area that is used by our slip holders for social events will be enlarged. There's an area that is encased by bulkhead and hangout and docks, and it's just water sitting there, and we can't get to it, we can't access it. So we're going to cover it and enlarge the hangout, which is important in terms of an amenity down there, because it is being used more and more often by our slip holders and the loopers who come through, and most especially since there will be a Thanksgiving dinner down there this year for all of those who come in. One of our Harbor Board members is sponsoring that with a whole lot of help from the rest of us. We'll be down there fixing Thanksgiving dinner. The Living Shoreline project that we had been talking about has been put aside or canceled at this point. There seems to have been a misunderstanding as to just exactly what those plantings were. When we got into it, the intention had been to plant all across the beachfront, which is not what we thought it was and not what we had intended. So that has been put aside. We are still looking at that corner that is G dock and the beach, and F dock and the jetty, and we'll be looking at cleaning that up, and we have some recommendations on local aquatic plantings that we can put there that will help make it look better, and also give some windbreak to the docks right there. That is about it. It's a lot to take on in the summertime, and as a first out of the gate, but we're thrilled that we're finally getting started. And as I said, that is phase one of our plans for renovating the marina. So now, Buford, it's up to you to carry on with the Greeno Road overlay.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and I hope that everyone will indulge me just a few seconds. If you'll notice the inhabitant of our chair across the table from me, and I don't know how well it shows up in the video for those watching via YouTube, but that is a photo that was left behind by Sherry Lee Bloodworth Bodock. And it's a bit of appropriate humor, but if you can't see the text at the bottom, the photo shows an enormous amount of signage, overhead utilities, just information overload in that particular area where that photograph was taken. And in the text below, it says growth. And so I think that's a bit humorous but appropriate for our discussion today. And if you will indulge me a minute more, what I'd like to do is give a brief update and advise on scheduling, so those that may be hearing this for the first time will know what we've done in the past. And the Greeno Road Corridor Overlay District, really what started this process was two things, is that one, staff conducted a visual preference survey last year. And we thank the citizens who participated in that process. And in addition, also the council implemented a development moratorium along Greeno Road, which expires on October 1st. And so in response to primarily the visual preference survey, and also in order to have a corridor preferably in place prior to on or about October 1, we've initiated this process. And so really this was first announced during the May 6th Planning Commission meeting, where we informally discussed and advised the public that this process was forthcoming. Then on May 29th, both at this same roundtable and also during the council's work session, we advised the public that the document itself for that overlay would be not considered, but would be made available publicly for the June 3rd Planning Commission meeting. And so prior to that Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission allowed staff to conduct a work session. So we took about 30 minutes just to talk about the corridor, describe it. Then during the meeting, we actually conducted a public hearing and allowed members of the public to address staff and the commission with their comments. So we, again, thank the citizens who participated in that. July 1st Planning Commission meeting, the revisions that staff has synthesized from the prior processes will be incorporated into that document. That document will be presented to the Planning Commission again on July 1st. And I'm not speaking for the Planning Commission here, but I think it's a reasonable expectation that the Planning Commission may wish to act upon that document on July 1st, but I think it's more likely that they may wait until the August Planning Commission meeting to act upon the document, and by act upon it, either take a vote to recommend approval or denial, and then forward it to the City Council for the Council's consideration. So just to reiterate schedule with everyone that's watching, so we'll definitely have a revised version on the July 1st meeting, and I think it's probably a good chance it'll be acted upon in the August Planning Commission meeting. What I want to talk about today are two of the districts that we did not discuss in detail last time, and I'll be very abbreviated with those districts because we laid a lot of the groundwork last meeting. But two things I did want to address before I talk about the districts, and I thank the Planning Commission for their comments on this. And what we were attempting to do was create an overlay district that was standalone, that it would be its own section within the zoning ordinance, that it could stand alone without having to rewrite, revise, or amend other parts of the zoning ordinance to allow it to work. The unfortunate aspect of that is it actually made the overlay far more complicated than it needed to be. So Planning Commission, I certainly thank you for your comments on that. And as a result, I've already created two revisions within the existing zoning ordinance right now that not only support the overlay, but are basically modernizations of the zoning ordinance for all areas. The first would be lighting. Lighting is a complicated topic, and one of the discussions during the Planning Commission meeting was, how can you possibly contemplate the entire constellation, forgive the pun, of lighting? What I used for reference, well, I looked at several different zoning ordinances, but my favorite one, and I think the closest one to Fairhope's desires, was actually Walton County's Land Development Code. Their lighting section, their lighting requirements was virtually identical to what I believe we need in Fairhope. So I modeled the revision after that one and made it Fairhope-centric, because there are certainly elements in their code that are not relevant to Fairhope, and there are certain needs of Fairhope that are not relevant to theirs. But what that lighting specification basically does, it looks at foot candles and lumens, and it gives you a measurable statistic, a measurable standard to apply. And that measurable standard does not care if we're talking about a high-pressure sodium lamp, an LED lamp, a metal halide lamp, etc. It gives a measurable standard and a specification for measurement. Another area that was a bit overly complicated within the overlay, within the first draft of the overlay, were service stations and convenience stores. And after contemplating this in greater detail, I realized that it would be more beneficial to make an amendment to the zoning ordinance and then just simply let the corridor show where that use is and is not allowable. And it's built around a rear-loaded service station or convenience store where they have fueling pumps there behind the building. I found a recent example of a brand new building in Auburn, Alabama, where that was implemented, and where the actual convenience store building fronts upon the right-of-way and the fuel station is actually behind it when viewed from the right-of-way. In addition to some other technical specifications about trying to make it a bit more muted, a bit more muted appearance as far as corporate banding and striping and logos and that sort of thing. So that is now incorporated into the zoning ordinance for the entire zoning ordinance. And then the overlay would just simply allow or disallow those types of uses. So with that said, those amendments have been made right now, and I have a draft put together. So in addition to adopting a Greeno Road corridor overlay, it would also be adapting various amendments to the zoning ordinance to make it all work together. Mm-hmm. And I think those are improvements. What I'll talk about briefly today, because I'm still going through and synthesizing the input from citizens and Planning Commission we heard at the Planning Commission meeting last week. So I'll talk briefly about the Gateway District and the Village Districts. Those are two districts we didn't discuss last time. The Village Districts, in this case, specifically are the Fairhope Avenue Village District, and also what is labeled in the comprehensive plan as the North Village District, which is colloquially we'll refer to as the Publix Parker Road area. I think the main component that I'll talk about today is that what you will see in the version of the overlay going forward is that it will contemplate shopping center retrofit. That the old traditional shopping centers with the massive parking lot and the building set way far back from the road, it will contemplate and encourage and require the buildings closer to the right-of-way with parking behind. That models many of the photos that were seen in the visual preference survey, and virtually all of those photos in the visual preference survey that showed that layout received very, very positive remarks from the citizens that participated. The Gateway District is very similar. Gateway District is very similar, and that would occur from probably, and y'all forgive me, I'm forgetting my dimensions right there, but this would basically be from Edwards north. This would be from Edwards north up to Highway 104, up to about Highway 104, leading into Fairhope. So not so much contemplating retrofitting shopping centers, because there are none to retrofit, but establishing what the new structures going in that area would be. Now, both of these districts would disallow drive-throughs of any type. Something I did edit after having a chance to contemplate it is I had some language in there, staff had some language in there about restricting single uses to 6,000 square feet. And after reading a bit more, I think that is perhaps a bit too restrictive. So, and one of the sample documents I found used 8,000 square feet. So the current version reflects 8,000 square feet for single-use purposes. I won't elaborate in great detail here, and I want to thank one of the Planning Commission members for pointing this out. We had some language in there that was probably an overreach, that was delving too far into an area of an architectural review. And so I removed that entirely. And it was talking about roof structures, roof systems, and different types of roof structures and roof systems. And so I want to thank Rebecca Bryant personally for that. I think that that was good advisement, that that is probably delving into an architectural standard that is probably too complicated, too much of an overreach for what we're wanting to accomplish here. That would be better suited to a future revision to the zoning ordinance where you have a future revision to the zoning ordinance where you just simply have a standalone zoning district. That would be much more appropriate for that and could be vetted in much greater detail. So I appreciate the Planning Commission for their comments on that. That is what we have right now. Okay. That is our update on the overlay district. And for fellow staff, I am certainly welcome to try to answer any questions if I can.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else have anything else to add? Besides that? Okay. Thank you all for joining us. Please stay tuned. The work session will begin at 4:30 and then council meeting begins at 6 o'clock.